Yeah, so here we have a question on percentage yield. Let's read the statement first. A compound M decomposes by two different reactions under different conditions as follows. You are given two reactions where M is decomposing into 3B plus C and 3M is decomposing into D plus 2C. Reaction 1, reaction 2. For reaction 1, you have yield as 80%. Okay. The total consumed moles of M are 10 and the moles of B and D formed are 6 and 1 mole respectively. Okay. The percentage yield of the second reaction is perfect. Perfect. The very important thing that is given to us is that moles of M is 10, right? So let's assume, and we can see that M is consumed in two reactions, that is both the reactions 1 and 2. So let's make an assumption that in reaction 1, moles of M consumed, let's assume it to be X, right? So in reaction 2, it will become moles of M. It will be, if in 1 it is X and total you have 10, in reaction 2 it will be 10 minus X. Perfect. Perfect. Okay. See, if you just look at reaction 1 and observe the stoichiometry, 2 moles of M is producing 3 moles of B, right? And it is given that yield is 80%. Keep that in mind. Let's do this calculation according to stoichiometry. Can I say for reaction 1, 2 moles of M will produce, reading the stoichiometry, 3 moles of B. Make sense? If 2 moles of M produces 3 moles of B, then X moles of M will produce 3 by 2 using the unitary method into X moles of B, right? But this would be the case when the yield is 100%. That is not in our case. In reaction 1, it is given that the yield is 80%. So the final moles of B will be 3 by 2 into X into 80%, right? Percent is divided by 100. Okay, this is one thing what we have derived from the stoichiometry, and it is already given that moles of B are 6 moles. So can we just equate this value to 6 and solve for X? 3, 2, X will be, from here X is coming out to be, this will be 4 by 5, 4, 5, 2, 2, 4 cancel. X is coming out to be 5. The value of X is 5. Perfect. Perfect. So if in reaction 1 moles of M is 5 and total moles are 10, then in reaction 2, can I write in reaction 2, moles of M consumed will be 10 minus X, and you have calculated the value of X as 5. So 10 minus 5 will be 5. So moles of M are equally divided in both the reactions. Perfect. Now reading the stoichiometry of reaction 2, observe this stoichiometry of reaction 2. It says 3 moles of M will get consumed to form 1 mole of D. I will write this. 3 moles of M reacts to produce 1 mole of D. Perfect. So 5 moles of M will react to produce 1 by 3 into 5 moles of D. Perfect. Using the unitary method. Now, this would have been the case if the yield is 100%, but we know that yield is not 100%. Let's assume for second reaction, yield is Y%, right? Let's assume it to be Y%. So can I say that the actual moles of D will be 1 by 3 into 5 into Y%? Percent means divided by 100. But in the question, you already have that D formed is 1 mole. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to equate this value to 1, right? And solve for y. What you are going to get is 523.60%. That means the yield for reaction 2 is coming out to be 60. Look for the option. Option D says 60%. Correct answer. Thank you. Basic concepts of chemistry, concentration topic. You have a question on molarity. Let's read the statement first. 1,000 gram of an aqueous solution containing 2 mole of ethanol has a density of 1.025 gram per ml. Calculate the molarity of the solution. Okay. So, can you just quickly write the formula for molarity? It is moles per unit volume of solution, and that too in liter. Keep that in mind. Okay. I need moles, I need volume of solution in liter. Do you have the moles? Yes. The value of N moles of ethanol given is 2. I'll directly put the value as 2. Now I need volume of solution. I have mass of solution. I have density of solution. Do I know a relation between mass and density? Of course, yes. Density is weight by volume. So can I say volume will be weight by density? What is the weight? What is the weight? 1000. What is the density? 1.025. But you have to keep units in mind. So 1000 is in gram, density is in gram per ml. Right? Okay. So what you calculate volume here will be in ml. So the volume is coming out to be 1000 by 1.025 ml. I want volume to be in liter. So what you have to do, divide by 1000. What you will get is 1 upon 1.025 liter. A genuine advice to you, until and unless you reach the final step, do not calculate. So let's keep volume of solution in liter as it is and put this value as it is. You can although see, you can solve this value 1 upon 1.025 and get an exact value of the fraction in decimal, but that is not required. Why? This is not the final step. Let's put it. So volume of solution will be 1 upon 1.025 liter. So if you take it to the numerator, it will become 2 into 1.025, which is going to be 2.02505, and the unit for molarity is molar, that is capital M. Look for the option. Option A clearly says 2.05 molar, which is going to be the right answer to this simple question. Thank you. Yeah, so here we have a question from photoelectric effect. Let's read the statement. A radiation of wavelength 3000 angstrom falls on a photoelectric surface of work function 1.6 electron volt. Okay. What is the stopping potential of the emitted electron? Stopping potential. And the units are volt. Perfect. This is a simple case of photoelectric effect where you have a surface and there comes a radiation. This radiation has some wavelength, right? And this radiation falls on the surface of the metal, and then an electron is ejected out, right? This is what is happening. Okay. So what is the equation for photoelectric effect that we have? That we have it, energy of photon or energy of radiation in this case will be equal to work function plus the kinetic energy. The only difference is that we do not have to calculate the kinetic energy. We have to calculate the potential required to stop that electron which is moving with some kinetic energy, right? Okay. Fine. Let's try solving it slowly by slowly. So energy of radiation can be calculated by hc by lambda. This is what we have, the formula. H is the Planck constant, c is the speed of light, and wavelength is given to you 3000 angstrom. Okay. Work function is given to you 1.6 electron volt, right? And kinetic energy can be calculated. We'll try to solve this, and finally we have to find out the stopping potential. See, I am going to do everything in electron volt, and finally I'll derive the stopping potential in volt, right? So if you want to calculate hc by lambda, that is energy of radiation in electron volt, what is the formula? It is a general formula that you have to remember is 12,400 by wavelength in angstrom, that is 3000, right? So this will be in electron volt, right? This is the formula, is equal to 1.6 electron volt plus kinetic energy. If you're gonna solve this, 2 zeros get cancelled with 2 zeros, 12.4 by 3. If you're gonna divide this, it'll become 4.13 electron volt is equal to 1.6 electron volt plus kinetic energy. Okay. Can we just calculate kinetic energy from this? 4.13 minus 1.6 electron volt will be equal to kinetic energy. So kinetic energy comes out to be 13,641, 2.53 electron volt. See, there is one formula for kinetic energy, is half mv square. We all know that. There is another formula for it, that is charge into potential, right? And what is the value of charge here? It is E, the charge of one electron, 1.6 10 to the power minus 19 coulomb, right? So if you put that value, 2.53 electron volt is equal to E into this V is the stopping potential, right? So V comes out to be, the stopping potential comes out to be 2.53 E into V upon E. E gets cancelled, so what you have is 2.53 voltage. This much potential is required to stop an electron which is moving with the kinetic energy of 2.53 electron volt. So the stopping potential value is 2.53, which is there, very much there in option B, which is going to be the right answer to this question. Thank you. Yeah, so here we have a numerical from structure of atom. Let's read the statement first. The dissociation energy of hydrogen is 430.53 kilojoule per mole. Okay, the unit is kilojoule per mole. If hydrogen is exposed to a radiation of wavelength of 253.7 nanometer, what percentage of radiant energy will be converted into kinetic energy? So you need to calculate the percentage of radiant energy that is going to convert into kinetic energy. Fine. See, try to understand one thing. You are using some radiations, right? Wavelength is given. That radiation will possess some energy that you can calculate by hc by lambda. Perfect. That energy is going to be utilized in two things. The very first thing is in bond dissociation of hydrogen molecule, right? And the leftover energy will get converted into kinetic energy, right? Make sense? Make sense? Okay. So let's calculate the radiant energy first. So energy of radiation will be hc by lambda. What is h? The Planck's constant. What is its value? 6.6 10 to the power minus 34, right? C, speed of light 3 into 10 raised to power 8 meter per second upon wavelength. Wavelength is 253.7 nanometer is 10 to the power minus 9 meter, right? Everything is SI unit, so the energy will come out to be in joules. If you're gonna solve this, this is really not very simple. So 6.6 into 3 upon 253.7 into 10 to the power 17 minus 34 minus 17. If you're gonna solve this further, 6,318, 19, I'll write it as 198, right, upon 253.7 into 10 to the power, let me make it 1980 minus 19, right? I am playing with some decimal places just to make it comfortable so that I can divide easily, right? If you divide 253, it will be like 250 and 1980. So this is gonna be 487 point, it will be like 253, somewhere around 7.8 into 10 to the power minus 19 joule. This is close approximation, right? But let's see. Okay, now you have this energy, right? This energy will be divided into two things. One is the bond dissociation energy of hydrogen molecule, right? So, but I am given kilojoule per mole. I have to convert into kilojoule per molecule. Let's do that. 430.53. This is what the value given for 1 mole of bond dissociation of hydrogen, right? For 1 mole. Can I write 1 mole as the Avogadro number, that is 6.022 into 10 to the power 23 molecules of hydrogen will dissociate, and the energy used will be 430.53 kilojoule, right? Okay. So can I calculate for 1 molecule? Of course, yes. How? By unitary method. 1 molecule of hydrogen, this is going to be 430.53 divided by 6.022 into 10 raised to the power 23, and this is kilojoule, so I'll write it as 10 to the power 3 joules, right? If you're gonna solve this, 20 minus 23, okay, so it'll become minus 20, 43.053 upon 6.022 into 10 raised to the power minus 19 joule, right? Okay. If you divide this 43 by 6, 7 6 42, 7 1 4, 7.14, somewhere around 7.14 into 10 raised to the power minus 90 joule. See, this is that part of energy, that part of that radiant energy which is used for bond dissociation energy. So can I write radiant energy will be bond dissociation energy plus kinetic energy. And what do I need to calculate? The percentage of kinetic energy. So, percentage of kinetic energy will be equal to, how you gonna calculate the percentage of kinetic energy? It will be radiant energy minus bond dissociation energy upon radiant energy into 100. Because it is percentage, you have to multiply it with 100. Okay. So what is the value of radiant energy? 7.8 minus 7.14. I am taking 10 to the power minus 19 as common, just for the simple calculation, upon radiant energy is 7.8 into 10 raised to the power minus 19 into 100, right? Minus 19 gets cancelled. 7.8 into 0.14 is 0.66, right? 0.66 upon 7.8 into 100. So can I say this will be 66 upon 7.8, right? So this is gonna be 66 is 864. So 8 point something, greater than 8, right? This will be my percentage. Let's look for the option if we can figure out. 5.69 no, 13.59 no, 8.46 pretty close, 18.56 not at all. So the only option C is very close to my answer. So option C is going to be the correct answer to this numerical problem. Thank you. Yeah. So here we have a theoretical question on atomic sizes. Let's read the statement first. The atomic sizes of gallium and aluminium are almost the same because the option A says poor shielding effect of the electrons in d orbitals. Okay. Option B says more shielding effect of d electrons. C, poor shielding effect of f orbitals in gallium. Okay. And D says high screening effect of 3s, 3p and 3d electrons. Fine. Aluminium and gallium are like, they are the members of 13th group, we know that. Boron, aluminium, gallium and then indium, thallium, right? So we have to figure out why there is like the comparable size of aluminium and gallium. General trend is when we move down the group, the atomic size increases, but this is not observed in case of aluminium and gallium. If you go by the trend, then size of gallium should be greater than aluminium, but that's not the case, and we have to figure out the reason. Okay. So if you observe the position of aluminium and gallium in the periodic table, let's say this is group 1, this is group 2 and this is 13. In between, you know, we have D block, right? We have D block here. When you are in the second period and you move from second group to 13th group, you jump directly. Because there is no 2D orbital present, so there is no 2D column, there is no 2D block. But when you are in the third period and you are moving from second period to 13, you have to cross this sea of 3D electrons, scandium to zinc, scandium, titanium, vanadium, that series, right? Okay. So what I'm trying to tell you is, if you observe the electronic configuration of aluminium and gallium carefully, you'll notice one important thing. Let me write the electronic configuration. For aluminium, atomic number is 13. It will be 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, 3s2, 3p1, right? Perfect. If you talk about gallium, it is 31. So it will be 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, 3s2, 3p6, then 4s2, then 3d10, and finally, let me write 3d10 a bit highlighted. And then finally you have 4p1, right? This is what the electronic configuration of gallium is. Now, why I have written 3d10 a bit highlighted? The reason being is these d electrons. We know that the order of shielding effect is, what is the order of shielding effect of sp and df orbitals? It is s electrons, then p, then d, and then f. We know that D and F are poor shielders. That means the outermost electron of gallium, that is 4p1, is going to experience more nuclear charge as compared to what we are expecting. We were expecting that in between the nucleus of gallium and the outermost 31st electron, there are 30 electrons that are going to shield it properly, and that is why the nuclear pull should decrease, because there are a lot of electrons that are shielding the outermost electron. But that does not happen actually. Why? Because 3D electrons, they are going to act poor shielder. D does not show that good shielding effect. That is why the size of gallium decreases. The nuclear pull on the outermost electron, because of poor shielding effect of d orbital, these 3d10 electrons, it increases, and it increases, so it pulls the electron inside, and the size of gallium reduces than what is expected. So aluminium and gallium will become of almost equal size. To be very precise, let me tell you that aluminium is even larger. Although it is very slight difference, but still, to be factually correct, aluminium is slightly larger than gallium. So the reason for the comparable size of gallium and aluminium is poor shielding effect of d electrons. Let's look for the option. Option A says poor shielding effect of electrons in d orbitals, which is going to be the correct answer to this question. I hope I'm able to make you understand the whole picture, why this is happening in case of aluminium and gallium. Thank you.